Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice December 26th Sunday over here from a very snowy and actually bright Helsinki, Finland. By the way, it's a very special day today. It's my beautiful girlfriend's birthday. It's Elsa Day, as we say, and we got some whoop whoop raising the roof in the background there. Beautiful, absolutely fucking beautiful. And hey, for all the people celebrating holidays out there, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever it might be, whatever day it is for you and your land. Wishing you the best as always. And because this is going to be a more long-term video, as it is a Sunday after all, well, I don't want to spend too much time over here. I don't want to waste too much time with all of this. However, I do want to let you know, for the people interested, we do have a sale going on. There is absolutely no rush with this. It goes until the end of the year, I believe. So another 7 days does not sound right, but should be around like a few more days, something like that. And then what else do I want to let you know? And then also I want to let you know that if you are interested in those programs, make sure to watch the promotional videos on the app, as I'll let you know who they're for and who they're not for, and then you can make a wise decision for yourself. As always, I want to scare as many people away from them as possible by telling you that it's going to require a shit ton of effort on your own behalf, and they are not magic pills. So with that in mind, we typically find that it takes about a year to a year and a half of very consistent and hard work and effort. And then yes, typically, as with anything, what you put in is what you get out. So I just want to be very, very clear about that. And a good rule of thumb is that if you're on the edge, probably not going to be a good idea. All right, cool. Okay, so let's get into it right now. Oh, and I should also say, because it is one of these more long-term videos, I would say if you find value in this content, not for any other reason other than that, maybe consider liking and subscribing, or just liking is good enough anyways. So let's first follow up on the short-term timeframes here. We don't need too much time for this, just because, well, it's basically the same thing as the last few days here. We got our move up to $52,000, the area that we were looking for over the last 48 hours, I believe it was. And then we also got the pull back down to 50,000 bucks, of which we're currently hanging out pretty much exactly right around here right now. So look, I'm not saying these things to like toot my own horn or anything like that. It's just, it's just a game of probability statistics, and we're just going range to range right here. So what is it looking like in the short-term timeframes right now? Well, again, you can't get too excited about any sort of major breakout as long as we're below the $52,000 region. And now, as Bitcoin does have its early reversal going on right here, we do have our higher lows as long as Bitcoin's above 48,200 or so. And if you're in the TA program, you do probably recognize this as a potential entry for a Krown cross coming up right here. It's not quite there just yet, but here's what I'm kind of talking about. We have very, very low volatility as Bitcoin pulls back into the green 55 exponential average, and we do have hidden bullish evidence populated. It should actually have 1, 2, 3 drives right here, because this is also a higher low coming in from 23rd of December. So does Bitcoin have to like reverse exactly from where we're at right now? No, absolutely not. Can come down a little bit more, anywhere around like low $49,000 is fair game. What would invalidate this as essentially a play is, of course, coming back down below the last higher low, which is about 48,300 or so. Keep in mind that CME did close Friday not at 51,060. We go to the lower term time frames for this. Again, I want to follow up on that from last week, which again was essentially the right call. So you can see that how that works over time. But looking at the hourly right here, a little bit of a pullback. That's completely fine. But ultimately, what happened that was of great significance in the last, in the last week, Bitcoin broke out of this falling channel, which has a higher probability breakout to the upside than the downside. And we still have a measured move and implied target all the way up to the $54,000 to $55,000 region. So anywhere around there is fair game. And of course, that would, more importantly, if it plays out, imply that Bitcoin is going to close above that critical $52,000 region right here, which is going to start to have major implications for the higher term timeframes in the following weeks, which we're going to discuss soon enough. But for right now, if you are on CME, again, it's kind of the setup. It's kind of the same setup right here. So let's talk about what would be quote unquote bad, or what would invalidate this again. What would happen if invalidation is hit? Most likely, again, if Bitcoin does trade back down below that last prior higher low, or even just comes like kind of close to it, let's call it below about 48,500 or so, that would be rather concerning. It would imply another move, very likely back down to the bottom side of our prior range lows in the somewhere around $46,000. So for right now, things still look all good in the hood to me. If we go over here to the short-term time frame momentum oscillators, again, understand that it is a Sunday and CME is not trading. All sorts of weird shit can happen between now and when CME opens up a little bit later, but we do see that hourly Stokes are showing upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 49,800. 2-hour Stokes are going to be showing upside momentum above 50,200. 3-hour is going to be showing upside above 50,400, and 4-hour is showing down as long as below 51,150 or so. So with all of that in mind, the more that Bitcoin essentially just holds sideways here in that $49,500 to $50,000 territory, the more and more this starts to shape up as being quote unquote good for this early coming week once CME opens, specifically for Monday, maybe even Tuesday, something like that. All right, cool. Let me make sure that my microphone's working. It is working. That's good. That's excellent. I'm glad because I don't want to waste another fucking 5 minutes. And let's get into some new stuff relevant to the higher term timeframes, as we're going to go deep and down and dirty into the very long-term analysis of this asset. So let me just pull up my more long-term charts here. Let me make sure that I go down my list properly. And let's talk about first things first, a couple of new things that we didn't have to talk about or to speak about from the last major video, and that would be daily volatility. So daily volatility on both Bitcoin spot and Bitcoin CME coming down to the lowest levels that we've basically seen since the last major move that was in November. Now remember, volatility is a direction neutral indicator, and more importantly, when we're looking at volatility, we really want to be matching it up with momentum oscillators and trend to get a better bias as to where this volatility is going to expand towards. In this case right here, I still quite like this setup, right? Of course, we did have multiple drives of bullish divergence come off the lows on daily CME, and we do see that Bitcoin is more or less putting in a low right around the 200 simple. So, this does seem at minimum like a mean reversion play, with Bitcoin very likely to test up somewhere around $52,000. The question is, does Bitcoin close above there or not? I think that there are several indicators, several things that do suggest it's very, very likely, and that will very likely will imply price action much higher over the following weeks, somewhere around about $57,000 to $59,000 region. But for right now, $52,000 still the big bad area. I know a lot of people are talking about 53, and I actually don't see anything at 53. 52 and 54 that are the main areas that I look at right now. 52 I think does kind of take the cake for the relevancy of this, as it's also going to be around the 55 exponential average on the daily as well. And of course 54, why is that relevant? That's just your last major technical breakdown area from your October and November consolidations right here. So Bitcoin getting back above there and reclaiming those regions is going to be relevant, of course, for long-term structure. All right, cool. So let's talk about the next thing as well, the next somewhat newish thing, and that is going to be the buy daily right here, the buy daily RSI. Let me pull up my chart that I actually did this on. Let me see, is it this one? It is this one. Okay, so all of these blue vertical bars represent the same signature on the buy daily RSI. And as you can see, while all of them are not actually just full on boolah to the fucking balls walls or whatever the hell the saying is long term, and why do I have these doing some bad drawings over here? Jesus Christ, man. Anyways, they're not always going to be just like blindly, just off to the moon and off to the races for forever and always. But they do have some pretty damn good historical iterations here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 working on iterations. And of those 14 iterations, only one, I'd say 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 of those were, did not lead up towards like long-term macro continuation, although they did produce some pretty significant bounces nonetheless. So let's just pull out the least relevant one, and then I'll show you the actual signals. I haven't done that just yet, but the least relevant one, or the one that had like the least impressive results, was going back on over here to July of 2018. From that signal given to the next basic high was about 36% almost. So it's still quite a fair bit, even within the context of a macro downside market. Bitcoin obviously had a weekly downtrend going on over here. We don't have the same sort of thing going on as of the current moment in time. So let me show you the actual signal. What is the signal, you might be asking? It's when the buy daily RSI passes above the white exponential, essentially above the critical zone, or this green horizontal bar right here. I kind of look at them as one and the same. And we do see, again, a lot of iterations of this. The last one actually getting our last macro low at the $30,000 region before going, from 30,000 to 53,000 bucks, and then obviously up to our new all-time high from there. So all of that is, is all well and good. We also do see that the buy daily jewel is starting to perk up as well. Now, I want to now combine this with something else that we've been watching for quite some time now. We've been monitoring this over the past 3 weeks here, and it is the daily CME stochastic signature, of which we've been slowly but surely, ticking off all the boxes, all the pieces of the puzzle as it slowly matures into a, relevant signal. So I want to just follow up on this yet again. I know this is boring for the people who've been here for a while, but these sorts of things I do think are rather important because this is real trading. It's a lot of fucking waiting is what it is. And things like this do happen slowly, but when they happen, they're rather powerful. So, okay, what are we talking about right here? We're talking about, again, all these blue vertical bars that represent the same thing on the daily CME stochastic signature, where we see the daily stochastic come down to the green horizontal bar right here. And all of those do produce some pretty impressive bounces, even even in some pretty nasty heavy bearish markets like this one back one over here in 2018. And of course, we did the same thing with the bi-daily RSI, and even on this one, this what I would consider a failure in comparison to the other historical signals, still produced about a 27.5% move from bottom to top after a signal was given, which is impressive, at least in my opinion. So, thus far, if we're going to be measuring both the 2-day RSI signal and the in the daily CME stochastic signal, thus far from our signal given to our current high has been about a 12.86% move to the upside. And again, we're comparing that with the worst of those iterations in the past. So let me throw this back on again, and I just want to highlight 3 of these iterations that stand out amongst the other ones because they're just more similar to each other than the other ones. And that is all these red circles down here. So there's 3 of them. We're working on the 3rd one right now. First and foremost, you do see the same technical formation. We have an ascending triangle. Don't let that term be weird towards you. It's just higher lows, which means that buyers getting more aggressive over time. So we saw the same thing in the macro cycle lows at 3,100 in January 2019. Saw the same thing over here in March 2020 after the flu dump. And then more recently, we see the same thing over here for like the last 9 months, basically playing between about 60,000 and 30,000 on these rise and bottom. So that is good. So we have same technical formation. And then also the signature itself on the daily stochastic is very, 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 very similar. So this is the current one that we're working on. And as you can see, it has one bounce off of the green horizontal bar, 2 bounces off the green horizontal bar, and then the 3rd one is the one that actually gets back above the critical zone and takes out the prior rejective high. Very, very critical point right there. So let's just go back into the last iteration of this and let's see, what did this one look like right here? Just one rejection, the second one was accepted, and from that point, you can see that still things took some time. Now, of course, that was essentially, like your first higher low that did hold. And from that time to the resolution of this ascending triangle was about 2 months, from March to May, actually. So just keep that in your mind. Again, about 2 months after that consolidation. And then, of course, following that was, just a mega massive move, basically almost 100% up within the next 140 days towards your next like major correction. And then, well, yeah, I'd actually settle on that right there. Good enough. And then, of course, the one before that, the only other one on the board that we have here for daily CME, again, specifically, is this one coming off the macro cycle lows at 3,100, where Bitcoin, or sorry, the stochastic bounced first off the green horizontal, rejected, and the second bounce off, obviously rejected again as well. Now, the 3rd one accepted. Once it gets back above the critical zone right here is where I did put in the blue vertical bars. And you'll notice that this iteration is actually a lot more similar to our current one than the March 2020, just as an aside. And what happens after that? Again, Bitcoin's consulting for like another 2.5 months, basically from January to March, April. And then Bitcoin just absolutely fucking blows it off right there. 100% or more than 100% move to the upside in the next 66 days. And then obviously goes, significantly more than that in the following like month and a half or so. So, again, this one took about 2 months, 2 to 3 months after the signal given, and then big explosion. Same thing over here, about 2 months, as you can see. And then right now with Bitcoin putting in this massive, assumedly ascending triangle, at least that's what we have right now. As long as Bitcoin holds the prior higher low at $40,000 or $41,000 on a weekly closing basis, that is relevant. Well, we could look at this as one massive ascending triangle. And if it is an ascending triangle, then we could make a projection, statistically speaking, on when this one is most likely to break. Where and why is that? Well, statistically speaking, when you have a formation like this, it's most likely to break when you're about 70 to 75% full within it. And as you can see right now, with an apex in about, late April, early May, we're probably looking at, 70 to 75% full somewhere in late January, early February. So that would be about 2 months from now, to be fair. Well, I mean, from the signal given, that is, from the signal given. So, which was about, which was about a few weeks ago. So yeah, it would be about 2 months as well. So definitely relevant within that. We can also take this one step further here too. So if we go over here and we go over to our higher term time frames, so we're going to be looking at a weekly, I want to call out a couple of things of relevance here. So first and foremost, we can also look at this as one massive consolidation at the highs. What lets us know that it's likely a consolidation? Well, it's likely a consolidation, one, because of the volume signature over here as it kind of tails off from left to right. You expect that during your contraction phases. And what do you know? You can do the same thing with that as well, with kind of judging when it's most likely to break out, typically when it's about 70 to 75% full. And guess where that is? Same as what we just spoke about priorly. And then, of course, on top of that, and even more important, I would say, is the weekly volatility, which obviously you look for it to contract into a consolidation, is coming down to levels that we haven't really seen since May, and of course August. So these are, historically major levels. We can take this even one step further as well, going over to the monthly, which the monthly, if we go over here to our most longest running chart, you can see is at our second lowest level ever. And of course, we're coming into the end of the month of December right now. So this will probably reach down around to what we saw in July, August of 2020, which, by the way, that consolidation was leading up from this major base before going from like 9,000 to, 65,000. So rather significant right there. And then, of course, we've only seen a few other times in Bitcoin's history on the monthly volatility being this, comparably even this low. In fact, we're lower than all the other ones, all of the other iterations that we haven't spoken about other than June, which, by the way, all of these low volatility reads were met with macro lows. So we have this one over here from December 2018 to January 2019. And guess what? That was Bitcoin putting in the macro cycle low right here. And of course, the time before that was coming out of these base from 2016. Before going from like 600 to 20,000. And then of course the time before that is this low, was kind of connected to it, but you can see that that was essentially on the, basically on the prior cycle lows from 2014 to 2015. Thought that was rather interesting, because if this is a consolidation, we do look at this first and foremost as, if within the context of the current trend, which does still have higher lows, as likely to lead towards continuation upon validation, which would be validation for the long term. Breakout right here, basically a weekly closure above like 60,000 bucks would do it for me. Okay, so let's, I kind of skipped over a few things, and I want to go back now and talk about why $52,000 is so important. So why is $52,000 so important for Bitcoin right here? Essentially just trading back above this sort of, where's my damn chart? There's my damn chart. Where's my damn chart? What the fuck? Where? Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, this area right here, essentially. Oh, so okay, so why is this important right here? Because if Bitcoin can start to close above about $52,000, this really solidifies this as a major low and bleeds into the higher term timeframes, confirming several things upon that validation. So if we go over here to the 5-day, you will notice, if we go to a more long running chart, that Bitcoin is actually closing today on the 5-day. And if we close, technically if we close anywhere here higher, but this would not be looking great, to be quite honest with you, if for what happened, but especially above $52,000, that would solidify this as a local low. If this is a local low, then it must be by extension a higher low in comparison to our September $40,000 low, which was a higher low in comparison to our $30,000 low from July of this summer, of course. And if that is to be confirmed, we would see hidden bullish divergence alongside that. And 5-day BBWP also just has a weird history of kind of coming down to these levels and leading up towards some pretty mega breakouts. So the last time that we were this low was coming out of the last $40,000 low before going from, from that signal given at about $47,000 to our new all-time high at $69,000, rather impressive. The time before that was, of course, the summer of major lows at about 30,000 bucks before going to 53. The time before that did have a downside resolution. Do want to be very open and honest about that. Obviously, volatility is direction neutral, and we don't want to like put our own stupid opinions in front of this data as well. But the other time that we got very low volatility on the 5-day, coming out of this space in October 2020 before going from 10,000 to 20,000 in the next couple months. Same thing on this space over here in July before going about 35% to the upside from about 9 to 12,500. And then of course we can go over several other iterations, but I think you kind of get the point. On top of that, 5-day Joule is starting to come into a bit of a bouncy area, regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish right there. And of course we can extend this just one more tick into the weekly. By the way, the weekly will also have a chance to do that, which is closing obviously tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And again, this what we've done right here is not like too compelling for the short term, obviously. If Bitcoin closes above 52,000 bucks by end of day, this will confirm hidden bullish divergence between this point and this point. Again, that same $40,000 low. And of course, we see the same thing on BBWP. And by the way, because CME has already closed for the week, what do we have over here? we have a loading chart is what we have. Sorry. Come on. There we go. We've actually technically already confirmed it on CME. Again, though, this would be so much easier and obvious if Bitcoin just closed above $52,000. Instead, you know, $1,000 under. Obviously, you know, you can't. Not everything can be fucking easy, of course. Is what I'm trying to say. But I do find that rather compelling right there. Okay, cool. So we spoke about all of that. Again, $52,000 is kind of like the big bad area, at least in my opinion. Again, the way that CME closed right here. I mean, this is good, obviously. Basically bad below like 50 or 49 or especially 48,500-ish region. Buy daily for CME, also confirmed hidden bullish evidences, and it's also trading above the exponential for the first time since when? Since September of the $40,000 lows over here, and before that, again, the major lows over here. Rather important stuff. So I think CME is really going to run this price action right here. So let's talk about a few other things. So I released a couple of videos when Bitcoin first had this major crash down here to the $48,000 to $45,000 region. And I said, and actually, I think the day of, I said the low is in, or maybe the day after. Now, again, understand this is, you know, some clickbait bullshit, and I'm not trying, and, you know, I'm just playing the YouTube game at the end of the day. So I don't want people to like just read the fucking titles and, you know, come up with like judgments, although that's naturally going to happen for obvious reasons, right? It's fair enough, you know, you can kind of expect that, but still, there are a lot of nuances with this. And so what I'm trying to get to say now is that I want to follow up on that case, because we've seen a lot of these things come to fruition. And again, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn or anything like that. Understand it's a game of statistics and probabilities. And when you find, you know, all these things kind of colluding with each other, that is when you have a very strong case. And well, at least in my opinion, or in my experience, that's the time to be putting on a bit of risk. So what am I talking about right here? So let's go back into this chart, and we'll start it off right here. So here we go. All right, first things first, I need to take some of these off. Really hope that I'm actually recording right now, which I am, so that is good. And let's get rid of this and get rid of this. All right. So, of course, Bitcoin does kind of have a history of these ascending triangles over a long period of time. This is the longest running chart right here, and you can see that I'm essentially insinuating that there's a lot of similarities between 2011 and 2013 over here with what Bitcoin's doing right now. Doesn't mean that they're always going to be like a fucking fractal. I really dislike that sort of terminology because it gets massively misunderstood. It's like, oh, this happened over here, so it must happen exactly like this over here. No, fuck no, not exactly like that. But you know, price action does not necessarily repeat, but it does rhyme over time. Why is that? Because we're humans trading this shit, and humans have pretty much had the same psychology since we became anatomically modern Homo sapiens, which was like, I think, hundreds of thousands of years ago. So, you know, try fighting that fucking conditioning. Probably not, unless you become like a monk and you live in a cave, at which point you probably don't trade this anyways. So it's only as fucking degens, I guess. Anyways, you know, just historically speaking, Bitcoin does like these, and it's just, you know, it's just, again, higher lows, buyers getting more aggressive. So what's going on right here? Well, first off, we do see the initial accumulation phase in the green zone of the Bitcoin log curve zones. Okay, great. Then we see, of course, a breakout towards the yellow zone where Bitcoin spends, you know, some time, about a year, consolidating in, and then it breaks out and busts on through to the red zone. Longer term, in this case over here, and all cycle ends have actually been met with a busting action towards the red zone. Anyways, we got the same thing kind of going on over here, just on a greater time scale, which makes sense. I mean, there's more market participants now, the market cap is higher, things move slower. Shit, like no shit. It blows my mind that people argue over lengthening cycles. Like, that is just the biggest fucking, in my opinion, mental masturbation. It's like, yeah, obviously they're lengthening, obviously, fucking obviously. Jesus Christ, man. And who cares? Who fucking cares? You have to trade it anyways. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself now, probably coming off poorly. I apologize. Hope you have a nice holiday season, sir. Anyways, we got the same thing going on over here, right? Bitcoin puts in the cycle lows at the green zone, breaks out. We've been consolidating within the yellow zone for, well, like 9-10 months almost now. So rather significant. Anyways. A couple things are very interesting with this. So I'm going to throw on a Fibonacci retracement, not that one, this one over here. I just want to call out that within this yellow zone, you'll notice very likely that Bitcoin consolidates between the 1.272 and the 1.618 Fibonacci extension right here from the prior cycle base. Okay, that's interesting. But what's even more interesting to me is that we do see this like end of consolidation sort of move to the downside, spike exactly towards 1.414. And then it's like, a couple weeks later, it's like nothing happened. So we do expect this to take longer, but it is rather interesting to me over here, or rather profound perhaps, in the sense that Bitcoin is doing basically the same thing over here. So in the log curve zones, we're in the yellow zone, obviously, found our cycle lows, our mid-cycle lows at the 1.272 thus far. Our cycle highs are pretty much at the 1.618, as you can see right there as well. And guess where Bitcoin spiked down to on the last two major dump-olas that kind of caught a lot of people off guard within this market? The 1.414, like right to the fucking T, right? So I thought that was rather interesting right there. Again, it doesn't need to be exactly like that, but if we were to kind of come at this and kind of analyze this from a fundamental perspective, like understanding the monetary policy going on right now, there are a few interesting things that kind of align with this. Now, I won't go over why I think the cycle probably ends in like February or March, at least given what we currently know right now. But where was I going to go with this? Do I want to go over that right now? Probably not. Look, the monetary policy is kind of changing, and basically the Fed is going to start to tighten. It's coming around like February, March, essentially. Liquidity is going to be taken off this market, and basically, at least in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why the whole markets even went up to the moon in the first place, all markets that is because the Fed's just been injecting billions after billions after billions and expanding their balance sheet like fucking crazy, with interest rates at the lowest level that they could possibly be in history. So all of that obviously creates a ripe environment for most assets to just float to the moon and beyond, and that includes Bitcoin and of course the stock market as well. And when that starts to get taken away, we probably don't get to see this for a while. And of course, if I were to kind of like forecast this towards March, late March, basically end of Q1 2022, you'd notice that and I've kind of drawn a regression here of where the log curves, the red zone is kind of going to be, but even the 2.272 would be basically in like the upper or mid 100,000s basically. Let me actually do this exactly perfectly. So there we go. That would be perfectly right there. And a very small move does actually quite change that. And I didn't save it from last time, so that's rather annoying. But basically, if we were to kind of judge around March, that would be around like 180,000, presumably speaking. And funnily enough, guess where this cycle over here topped out? The 2.272 as well. Hey, you want to take this one step further? Yeah, let's fucking do it, baby. I'm a TA nerd right now. And what about this cycle over here? It's topped out around the same area as did the first cycle over here. So they all kind of, finding similar ones right there. Anyways, these two especially have a lot of a lot of similarities about them. They certainly rhyme quite a fair bit. Again, what would invalidate this? Because nothing is 100% fucking guaranteed. No shit. Well, if Bitcoin were to come back down and especially close like a weekly dildo below 40,000 bucks, that would certainly do it. Definitely, or I wouldn't say definitely, but very likely looking at a move towards $30,000 after that. Until then, Bitcoin looks to me like it is sitting in a bit of a higher low right here, and probably has another few months of operating well, and then probably see the inevitable happen after that, I imagine. Also, I wanted to, I completely forgot to talk about this as well. So we've spoken about this as a local low forming right here. Well, could we time something like that? Well, we've been essentially suggesting that we potentially could with this chart over here. And what is this chart over here? Well, basically, I've measured out all of the length of all the consolidations that Bitcoin's had for the last year. And we could obviously go further back than that, but I didn't really want to be honest with you. And so I showed this like way back on over here after this dump first started, and saying that this is probably going to take some time with Bitcoin on the lows, as you have seen pretty much all of these consolidations basically be about the same on the distributive phase as they are on the accumulation phase. So you can see over here in January, 11 days on the highs, resolved by 11 days on the lows, and then boom, off to the fucking races. 60 days on the highs in March, April, versus 63 days on the lows over here from basically the summer macro lows thus far. And then we had 14 days on the highs over here, resolved by 10 days on the lows over here. And then more recently, and I got this wrong beforehand, I didn't count this out right. I don't know how the fuck I missed that, but I was saying it was 28 days. No, it's 26 days right here on the distributive highs. And thus far, Bitcoin has spent about 22 days over here within the $52,000 to $46,000 range. So what would that align with? A presumed date somewhere around basically early January, which is kind of what I'm thinking. And why does that also make sense from a theoretical perspective? Because early January, what happens? The big boys, the professionals, come back into their trading stations, and after they essentially clear their books for the end of the year, which happened not this past week, week, but the week before that, as this is kind of like a holiday season for most professional traders and institutional traders. In fact, it pretty much is, like almost no one trades during that time. That's the time when retailers kind of take over. And because they've closed their books, essentially, they prepare for 2022 to start, nice and fresh. And that's when a lot of new institutional inflows come in. It's actually at the start of the quarter. That's why you pretty much always see a quarter reversal on the start or end of a quarter, just for what it's worth. Anyways, presumably in the past year, I imagine that there's probably a lot of funds, or I would imagine there's probably a lot of funds that, are interested in getting into Bitcoin, and they can't just do it like probably you or I do as a retailer. They have to wait until that quarter. So they move a lot slower. They move at a glacial pace, but it kind of aligns with that as well, which I thought was rather interesting. All right, we're 30 minutes into this video. Do we have more? Yes, we do have more. Okay, so also should talk about this. So I did miss one thing over here as well. I thought that there was a rather interesting interpretation of the weekly PMARP as denoted by this green horizontal bar right here. Basically, anytime that anytime that the PMARP is above it, we're generally in a bullish market. Anytime that we're below, generally in a bearish market. Even on these one-offs over here, which don't look like much, I mean, that was still a pretty major move from signal given to next high. Yeah, about 160% move right there. And you can see that Bitcoin got rejected right at that level on its last major high at $69,000. So with that in mind, I still look at this as, a very big area, obviously, and if Bitcoin can start to get back above there, that's probably also gonna be another early indication that Bitcoin's gonna bust on through to the top side and probably initiate moves much further north, which, by the way, I forgot to talk about what would be the intended target off of something like that. Well, again, we have one major ascending triangle right here. So if it's an ascending triangle, where would the implied target be? Well, something like this. And oh, what do you know? There's your plan B, like $95,000 or $100,000 target. And oh, what do you fucking know right there? It's the 1.414 extension. That's crazy. Crazy how those things line up with each other. All right, cool. We also spoke about, we also spoke about this as well. Around the 20th of the month, we typically see a lot of these major highs, major lows put in. Hey, guess where Bitcoin put in its major lows? I'm just following up on this. So if you are new here, probably just think, what the fuck? Why is this guy doing hindsight analysis? No, I just want to follow up for the people who have been watching this and haven't to give a fuck for the past few weeks, because we did say around the 20th, that's kind of when we expect. If this thing is going to put in a low, that's probably about when it is. It was also a Bula moon around that time as well. But you can see pretty much that was the last spike low before, well, a major try to the upside. Not bad indeed. Okay, so I've got all of that. Also, why is Bitcoin put in a major low right here, or why likely it has put in a major low right here? Well, guess where we based off thus far on this major dumpola. Not that one right there, but right here, the 0.618, obviously at around $41,000 was essentially the wick low of this month of December. Anyways, what else do I want to get out here? I have all my notes over here, and I feel like I'm missing some things. Yeah, we got that. Yeah, I guess we don't need to go over too many more things. So fair enough. I think that's good for now. I've spoken your head off for probably way too long. We do have a bi-monthly and a quarterly closing in just a few days, or basically 5-6 days here. Bi-monthly, just looks like a consolidation. Quarterly, how we looking like coming into the end of the year? Not great. What about the 6 month? 6 months actually looks okay right there. Would like to see it close with a little bit more of a body, but yeah, not terrible. What about the yearly? Yearly just, I can't really make too much out of that. Yeah, I think I'm just talking to myself now. So apologies on that. I think it's time for me to wrap this bitch up. And again, short-term time frame is actually rather interesting right here, but it's the higher term time frames that are really going to be resolved within the next, I think, few weeks, actually, in early January-ish. So with all of that said, that's a long way of saying above 60,000 good, below 40,000 bad. And we're right in the fucking middle of it at 50,000 bucks. So with all of that said, I do want to wish you well within this holiday season, no matter what holidays you might be celebrating, whether it's Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or whatever the fuck holidays that we have. Hey, have a nice day for you in your life, and I'll be signing off now. We'll be back on tomorrow with some more live stream analysis. Take care, and until next time.